The recent surge in COVID cases is prompting school districts across the country to rethink their approach. Some are even making the decision to go fully remote. We want to bring in Randi Weingarten. She's the president of the American Federation of Teachers. And we also have one of our education reporters, Reggie Wade, joining the conversation. Randi, let's just start with school districts nationwide. Like I said, they're faced with this very tough decision at this point. We want to clearly keep our children safe, but we also want to make sure that children are getting the best education possible, that they're not falling behind. I guess broadly speaking, at this point, as we see the number of COVID cases rise across the country, how should schools be approaching this issue?
So, three things. Number one, as your speakers have said beforehand, we have to get COVID under control, because even though we're confident, because of the testing that has been done in New York City and elsewhere, that with the safeguards in place, younger kids or schools for elementary kids have had enough mitigation that they can be reopened. So those are really good news. But what we've also seen is that with the rise of COVID in places like New York City, we've seen a doubling of the cases in schools. So schools are not islands. We need to get COVID under control. We need it to be going downward, not upward. Having said that, I think that assuming we can do that, let's say by February or so, and in many places, maybe even January after the break, that if we have the resources that are supposed to be in the stimulus bill right now, and if we have the real public health safeguards, we can reopen schools for school buildings for elementary school students all over the country. But we need those safeguards intact, and we need to make sure we have the testing as an early warning system and really good protocols for opening and closing schools. That's part of the way you both make sure that people are safe and that kids are learning in person.
Randi, Reggie Wade here, and you talk about the stimulus package that being debated by Congress. And a report from the CDC came out and said schools and states might face a 7% increase in costs when it comes to bringing all children back to school in person. So is there a certain number you're looking for in this stimulus bill to go to reopening schools?
No, Reggie, it isn't. There's going to have to be another package after this. And the most important part of that package is going to have to be state and local funding, which I do not know why Mitch McConnell wants to bankrupt states and localities. They have been the key people who have gotten us through this pandemic. But we're going to need Joe Biden's leadership in that. And we're going to need that, we're going to need state and local funding, and we're going to need more school funding. We're going to need it for emotional well-being, and we're going to need it for instruction. I keep calling for the summer to be a second semester and start planning for a voluntary summer that is robust with enrichment courses and with getting kids outside and getting kids into camps and things like that, instead of just saying, let's just make up the work. But we know in-person learning is so important. We have evidence that we can keep kids and educators safe. So we need what CDC has said, which is about $450 a child to actually get those safeguards into place. They are expensive, but what's the priority here? Is the priority getting kids into school and making sure they have in-person learning? Or is it just rhetorical, like it was with Donald Trump, where he would rhetorically say it was important, but do absolutely nothing to make it happen?
Randi, we're just over a month away and talking about some of those priorities for the incoming Biden administration, in addition to more help and more aid to bridge this gap and to help over the next couple of months or year or so. What also needs to be on the incoming administration's top priority list when it comes to education?
Okay, I would say there needs to be about four things. Number one, let's just talk. We very rarely talk higher ed. Let's talk higher ed for a second. Mm-hmm. We have to actually Betsy DeVos made a mess of student loan debt. And for all of us who've already paid our student loan debt, who say, well, if we paid it, why can't kids right now pay it? It's much more burdensome right now, and there's very few job opportunities right now. And so we need to actually make sure that student debt is transparent, that the education department actually really focuses on the borrowers instead of giving the lenders, all the opportunities that they have. We have to then find ways to reduce that debt, make public service loan forgiveness real, and things like that. So number one, we got to deal with student debt. That's 43 million people. Number two, the new administration really has to help get kids back into school and get us the money that we need to actually have a robust, second semester in terms of the summer, so that we create some joy here. Number three, we got to focus on the equity issues that actually help all kids achieve. And President-elect Biden, I love saying that, has a really good plan about that. It's, creating multiple pathways to graduation, really pumping up career tech ed, wrapping services around schools, tripling Title I, doubling IDEA. Some of it is going to require, the Senate being willing to do these things, and thinking about how we help all kids have a great education and great opportunity.
Randi, we got to go. I need to ask you real quick, though, before we let you go. Your name has been floated around as the next education secretary. Have you spoken with the Biden team? What's the latest that you can share with us?
I've spoken with the Biden team a lot. I speak mostly, I'm mostly doing my job. So I speak mostly on the issues that we are confronting. I'd be honored to serve if they wanted me to serve. I'm honored for the mention. But right now, I think that they have other people, the two names that I've heard most recently are really, really solid people. And I do hope one of those two people get it, either Leslie Fenwick or Miguel Cardona.
All right, Randi Weingarten, President of the American Federation of Teachers. Thank you, as always, for taking the time. We'll talk to you again soon.